Listen, it has not been missed upon me. Now, I understand that mainly this has come from one person, and it's a bot troll account, and he's always in every LSU media's DMs, in the comments. I think the guy's name is Black Dog, but he's not the only one. And I want to start off tonight talking about LSU in reference to Garrett Nussmeier. You think that I have been harsh. Some of you think that I have been very harsh on Garrett Nussmeier. I have not been harsh on Garrett at all. Now, what you're referring to is that in 2022, I told you that I thought that Jaden Daniels should be the starter, will be the starter, and he will lead you to wins that maybe that you shouldn't have, mainly due to his feet. Well, that happened. And then when he came back in 23, we had a discussion about him potentially win the Heisman. He did. Was the best quarterback in the country last season without question, best player in the country last year without question. And it's not only the last 2 years. Man, we've been doing this show for quite some time. What you and I have discussed in reference to quarterback play has been the thing that I have, humble brag, have hit on the most about what to expect from a quarterback. Now, there are always things that you have to talk about when it comes to the quarterback position. There are so many different layers to what Garrett Nussmeier is going to face in his first season as a starter. Now, I think over the last 3 years that Garrett has massively, and I mean massively, progressed from 22 until now. There are still things that he's got to clean up. And the one thing, so this segment is going to be things that you have to do to beat USC, and then things you don't or you cannot do. The do's and don'ts, what Garrett or this team cannot do against USC if they want to win this football game. Number one is very simple to me. Garrett has had moments and times in his career, whether it be college or high school, that he will become turnover prone. That cannot happen. It cannot happen when you have a defense in USC that struggled a lot like yours did a year ago. Now, do I think that he has become much better at his decision-making, getting the ball out quickly, taking some checkdowns when things are not there? Yes. Do I also think that there are situations, like in the bowl game when he scrambles left, makes an ill-advised throw, and it gets picked off, which we also saw translated in camp? Yes, I do. And when you play games like this, think what you want to about USC. But when you play games like this in week one, turnovers will kill you. They will utterly kill you. Now, I do think that the game plan, as Will Campbell said, which we'll talk about in just a moment, but the first thing that you just cannot do, if you're Garrett, you got to take the sack instead of forcing balls into very bad coverage. Take the hit, get down, don't get injured, live to play another day. Turnovers will be very crucial in this season because I think the style of football that you're going to play behind the offensive line that we think that can dominate, you got to give your team the ability to respond. It's not saying that Garrett's not going to be, mistake-free. I think he will make some mistakes. But there just has to be a massive emphasis in the beginning of the season and when you get all the way up to Ole Miss. You just can't turn the ball over in crucial situations. Doesn't mean you don't force the ball down the field. That's not something that Garrett shies away from. But when I look at Garrett Nussmeier, I see a guy that can make every single throw that you put out there. I think he, guys, from a traits perspective, he is one of footwork, arm strength, accuracy, is one of the better quarterbacks in this conference. I don't necessarily think that that part of his game is debatable. What I think that he lacks in, and he has to get better at, is decision-making. Now, if you think that is me legitimately thinking or hating on him, it is not. You think that I have compared him to other quarterbacks. I really don't know how you can make that determination when I just say, look, we have seen him. And I have seen him with my own eyes. Now, you don't have to believe me. You can believe or say or go to whatever show that you want to. That's perfectly fine with me. But when we get in the season and you're coming back to a post game and you're like, God damn it, that man Blake was right. I don't know what to tell you. He's got to limit the turnovers if you want to get where you want to go. Something that he's vastly worked in and something that I think he will accomplish. Last night after I was utterly accused of saying that I hated Garrett Nussmeier, I went back and watched the Georgia game. It's like, man, was I too critical on the 2 turnovers he had? No, I wasn't. Throwing a fade route to a guy in Kayshon Boutte who, quite honestly, guys, Kayshon Boutte's last year at LSU, he didn't give a shit. There, I said it. Throwing it up to a guy who couldn't give 2 shits about what happened, and you can't throw that ball into double coverage. I mean, you have pressure coming in your face. You got to protect the football and the fumble. It's a blowout. Doesn't matter. I get it. But when you go into a season, guys, Jaden Daniels' best trait. Here was why Jaden always got the edge over Nuss. Always. Don't believe me? Just ask Brian Kelly because it's exactly his words and what he said. The best ability that Jaden Daniels had was not his arm, was not his accuracy, was not his legs. It was not turning the football over in critical situations and getting down and making sure that you live for another play. I cannot tell you how critical that will ultimately be. The biggest don't in this, don't give Lincoln Riley more possessions than he needs. The big dudes. So Will Campbell talked about this today too, to some extent, not greatly. But D'Anton Lynn, the new DC at USC, is going to get after Garrett Nussmeier. He's going to come after him and he's going to test him. Guys, it's not a question. Like, I'm not thinking that is something that's possible that's going to happen. It's like almost of a certainty that they are going to do that. They are going to do that. Garrett and Joe and BK and Cortez in the beginning of the game has to loosen up this defense. They have to take the pressure off of Garrett Nussmeier early in the game because they want to establish that defensively that they fix things as well. Guys, we can't talk about this any more than we already have. The way that UCLA played a year ago under D'Anton Lynn is very Baltimore Ravenish. What do I mean by that? If you ever watch the Baltimore Ravens play under John Harbaugh and what they do defensively, it's all of the same to some extent. They're going to put a lot of guys on the line of scrimmage, and they're going to try to confuse the ever-living manure out of you, and they're going to send pressure all day long and play man-to-man coverage. Your receivers on short routes have to win. Where I think that it's a plus for you is you have 2 big body wide receivers in C.J. Daniels and Kyron Lacey. You got to be big. C.J. Daniels, you transferred to LSU, buddy, here you go. It's your time to shine. Because when you come to a place like this, on these critical 3rd and 5s like you've been doing all camp, you got to come down with the catch. Nothing else matters. Slants, hitches, bubble screens, what tight end delays, bootlegs, all of those things need to happen to help you to limit that pressure early. Guys, if Garrett Nussmeier starts off the game 7 of 10 passing and he's got 65 yards, I will be ecstatic because if you're going to methodically move the ball down the field, he is going to back some things off. And then that's when you can start getting the running game going. The number one thing you have to do, get the ball out quickly if you're Garrett Nussmeier and Joe Sloan. Let's go to another thing that you have to do because it goes into what we were talking about. So the second thing that you must do in this game, I think that you need to play a little bit of keep away, if I'm being honest. Let me explain as to the reason why I've continuously said this about USC. Guys, in 2022 at USC, Lincoln Riley was 116th in the country in time of possession. Last year, they were 117th in the country in time of possession. they want to go quick and they want to score the football quick, keep the ball away from them. Limit their chances to score. The reason that is a big deal, and if you can establish the line of scrimmage and run it down their throat, the reason that I want to keep the ball away from them is because if you do have defensive lapses in this game, which I think that you will, like I fully believe that you're going to have some defensive lapses in this game, and Miller Maltz and this offense is going to get some things on you. It gives that defense and Blake Baker on the sidelines, and I probably going to get in trouble for saying this. I would assume that Blake Baker is going to be coaching from the sidelines. Guys having iPads, teaching and going through what they're actually doing and showing when you get to game time. Guys, keeping the ball away from a team has worked for the last 4 national champions. Guys, it has. The only one that would go up tempo on you in the last 5 years was our team, LSU. Bama would run the football down your throat with a really good offensive line and that running game with Najee Harris and hit you with some play actions with Mac Jones and the Heisman Trophy winner Devonta Smith over the top. The 2 years after that, what did Georgia do? What did Georgia do in their 29-1 run over the last 30 games? They're going to run the football right at you. Hey, you know what? We're going to give our defense a breather, and we're going to run the football right at you. And you know what? There's not a damn thing that you can do to stop it. Michigan did the same exact thing. Guys, they won a whole football game against Penn State, running the football 47 straight times against Penn State. I'm not saying that football and the style of football is changing, but teams that can and have the ability with a big-time offensive line to line it up and just punch somebody in the freaking mouth wins you ball games more than it loses it to you. Guys, if you get 5 yards of pop per run, you're going to do great things offensively. So number 2, keep it away from them. They want to go fast. They don't want to hang on to the football. They want to go bang, bang, bang down the field. Give your defense a rest. Run the ball right at them. Let them react to that. The second thing that you cannot do, the second don't, defensively, you can't get caught with your eyes in the backfield. We talked about this last night with Carter, and I think it's the biggest thing about on this defense that's going to be the biggest challenge. Guys, I cannot emphasize this enough. If you go with all the motions and misdirection that Lincoln Riley is going to throw on you on Sunday night, you will get beat. You will get beat. Or your defense will get beat, and you'll come in here and we'll talk about, hey, man, is this defense any better? Lincoln is going to do a lot of things in the RPO game that's going to confuse your linebackers. I'm going to tell you what they're going to do because it's exactly what I would do. They're going to go right at number 7. Hey, last year moving inside didn't really work for you? Okay. Well, you know what? We're going to come out early and test and see on these RPOs if you're ready to go. I think if you're Blake Baker, if you're Brian Kelly, if I'm just going to throw this out there to some extent, people are in the building are going to know what I mean by this. Some of you will not. Bob Diaco, you're going to have to come up with certain situations to get Harold to show one thing and back out and get him into coverage. Guys, early in this game, I would disguise Perk and not send him on certain situations and let him go out in coverage. Let me tell you why. I think that they will attack him with RPO slants, and if he shows blitz and backs out, there's a chance he can bat a ball up in the air or get a pick. Lincoln is going to disguise so many things, and I think he is going to attack Harold. Here's another thing, too. I think he'll attack Greg Penn. Carter Bryant last night was spot on in exactly what he said about Lincoln's the best thing that Lincoln Riley does is he attacks the second level. He's going to do it again on Sunday. You're going to have to rotate. I think that there's going to be a heavy rotation of Whit Weeks and Greg Penn. And with that, I think that's why Perk Dog got the calm in his helmet because he's going to be on the field at every given moment. How you defend and show and be disciplined in this RPO counter run game is going to be if you know that your defense is going to have a good game or not. I don't care what you do on the first drive. First drives, they are what they are. You saw what Florida State did to Georgia Tech last weekend. They came out first series of the game. They marched down the field, and they were kicking ass and taking names. When you have offensive linemen that are disguising and running the football, and your read as a linebacker is to fill gaps, go tackle the ball carrier, but they have a slant behind it. It's the toughest thing that you have to do as a linebacker, and I think that Perkins and Penn and Whitweeks' discipline is going to have to be paramount in this game. The final don't, the thing that you cannot do. Sometimes I think what coordinators do, and I think that Denbrock, the only thing that I would knock on Denbrock from the last couple of years, coordinators sometimes can get a little pass happy. I think we use Florida State as an example. What did they do in that opening drive? They ran the football and they gave it one look reads on boots, waggles, things like that for DJU to complete. They got away from it. They would be so predictable. They would get the ball. They would get down 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, and they would run the football and get stuffed. Well, when you can't mix things up and you're not mixing things up, defenses are going to know what you're doing. It's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about here is, guys, even if early in the game you're getting 4 yards a carry, I'm going to love it. Run right at their ass. Get Josh Williams. Get John Emery. Get Caden Durham. And get the bull amongst bulls, Caleb Jackson, in the backfield and hand him the rock and get the fuck out the way. That is how you're going to win this game. I don't think that they're better than you in the interior of that offensive line versus their interior of their defensive line. Run the ball right up their keister. That is the widest word I can use on this show. But if you're going to win this football game, you're going to have to line up and man up and punch them right in their stuff. They're not more physical than you. Sorry, they're not. USC fans were in this show last night. Good on them. I welcome them being in here because y'all can have discussions inside the comments. They're going to say that I'm a homer. You have not seen this offensive line perform. And Will Campbell came out today and speaking on this and not getting away from the run. What did Will say? Will Campbell came out and said, what are we, guys, I'm just going to let you know, and I'm paraphrasing on what he said. You can take this however you want to take it. We're going to run that football. Good. That in and of itself, that part of itself, that little nugget, that little thing that we've seen from this offense makes me more confident about them as a team. You can call me old school. You can call me whatever you want. Oh, Blake loves the Les Miles type era. Call it whatever you want. Again, the only thing that I know is that the last 4 national champions would line up offensively and run it right at dudes and say, bring that ass here, boy. Megaballs. No diddy. Don't get away from the running game. Even if you got to punt it away. Even if there's a lapse in something. Now, the challenges that D'Anton Lynn is going to possess in the packages that he sends, I will remind you, D'Anton Lynn at UCLA had the number 1 rush defense in the country. They had a lot of really good players at UCLA, but they would send so much pressure that things would get stuffed. Guys, not everything has to be pretty. If you're getting 3 and 4 and 5 yards a carry, to me, as an O-lineman, run that rock. You can't get away from it. Speaking of Will Campbell, I want to say this about him very quickly. Will Campbell was in an interview today with the media, and here's some of the key takeaways that I got from Will. We're only there, meaning Vegas. We're only going to Vegas. We ain't going to Caesar's Palace. We're there to play football. And when he talks about running the rock, being locked in and focused, him being more vocal than he is, guys, we're here to win national championships. 10 games get you fired. That's his words, and he's not wrong. He's not wrong. I think culture has gotten better. We talk about Brian Kelly, and look, a lot of times when we talk about BK, it's things and shit that he's not doing right. We don't talk about the things that he is doing right. This young man is echoing everything that Brian Kelly wants him to echo throughout the locker room. But I love the quote when he says, we're going to Vegas to get in a fight, get in a fist fight with them. Let's go whip their ass. I think Will Campbell today in his press conference, when he said, we're going there to get in a fist fight, he doesn't mean that. You know what he means. But what he's trying to say is, listen, we feel what you're saying. He is embodying everything that you as a fan are trying to say. We want you to go out there and whip their ass. It's time you go out there and whip their ass. I'm tired of these game one scenarios where you come out pussyfooting around, and you get your asses kicked. Stupid miscues. I can forgive Brian Kelly in 2022. It's the first game that he had at LSU. What is he going to do? I mean, it was what it was, man. It was what it was. I thought his teams, he won the West in 22. I can't fault him for that. Cannot fault him for it. You're in year 3 now, and you're going up against a team that does not have better personnel than you do. Now, I will continue to say this too. Don't sleep on what USC has on that D-line, though, man. They got some playmakers. So it's not going to be easy. If, remember this, that your boy said this on a Tuesday, on August the 27th, the year of our Lord in 2024. If you go out there and you push around this USC defensive line with DeAnton Lynn, you've had a big accomplishment. You can't get, guys, they got 4 SEC caliber defensive linemen. Anthony Lucas is that. Bear Alexander is that. Nate Shepard literally is that. Guys, he was one of the more productive guys at Vanderbilt in the interior of the defensive line. Guys, he was better along the defensive line than Mason Smith. And Jalil Muhammad, they got talent up there. Where they lack is the depth. And if they got to rotate for whatever reason, that's when you start clapping them cheeks, OnlyFans style. All right, last thing. Speaking of offensive line play, here's a nugget, or here is something that I have really focused in on. Have thought about this for the last couple of months. I'm so glad that tonight we get to talk about it. You know, a big concern for LSU fans when we talk about defense, and this is the last thing that you must do. When we talk about this defense, one thing that everybody wants to see is a better pass rush, blitzes, schematical things that get guys open to get the quarterback down. Miller Moss is athletic, but he's not that athletic. USC offensively was 98th in the country in sacks allowed. 98th. I do think that their offensive line is better than what some are giving them credit for. Like, a lot of people have called them soft. I actually wouldn't call them soft. I'd call them above average. They gave up 98 sacks. And the thing that's interesting to me here, or they were 98th last year in sacks allowed. What's interesting is how much does Miller Moss negate that more than Caleb Williams? Caleb was an improviser, excuse me. Caleb Williams did not play inside the system like he should have. Miller Moss will. What I think that they're going to do with Miller Moss at quarterback versus what they did with Caleb Williams, who was an improviser, is I think it takes pressure off of the offensive line when they get the ball out quickly the way that they want to. You know, if things weren't perfect for Caleb last year, he would bail. He would bail. Go watch the Notre Dame game from last year. I beg of you. Caleb Williams was as ass as a Kim Kardashian hype video. I mean, ass was jiggling everywhere. The man looked bad. And by the way, he had painted fingernails, made him look even worse. Brian Kelly in the fall camp portion of the last 3 weeks was asked about his edge pressure and how much better it had gotten. And before the question was over, he was already answering it. Kevin Peoples. Well, Kevin Peoples, we need you. And I'm going to be a little real with you. If you can't generate a pass rush and that's what you want to go in here and do against a team that was horrendous at defending and protecting their Heisman Trophy winning quarterback a year ago, we have problems. Let Deshaun Womack, let Savion Jones, let Braden Swinson, let these guys loose. Also to that, I think Blake Baker's going to go in this game and confuse the shit out of them because they don't know what they're seeing either. You know, a lot of talk has been, well, what is DeAnton Lynn going to show you? What the fuck is Blake Baker going to show USC? Now, Lincoln Riley's a great play caller, but if you get into a 3rd and 7 type situation, I don't want to play that. Let Miller Moss make the completion. Make him make the right decision, which he can. And look, you are risking something, but you got to get after the passer, man. You can't pussyfoot no more. Pussyfooting around on defense last 2 years got you beat, got you dicked down. And quite honestly, I'm tired of it. But Brian Kelly knows exactly what he needed to do, and he goes gets Blake Baker, who's not going to be pussyfooting around. So those are my do's and don'ts. 3 on each side. So get the ball out quick, play some keep away with USC. Baker will send heat. They were 98th in passing or sacks allowed last year. Excuse me. Some don'ts. Garrett cannot have turnovers. If Garrett limits his turnovers, if he has a turnover, you're going to win the football game. Don't get caught slipping. Don't be undisciplined. And don't get away from running that rock.